Hello everyone, and welcome to presentation on MessageFormat 2.0. MessageFormat 2.0 is a project developed by a Unicode working group to be a successor of ICU MessageFormat.
Your guides through these introductions will be Elango Cieren and Zibi Branicki.
Today, we're going to introduce you to the problem statement, the landscape, MessageFormat Working Group, MessageFormat 2.0, our roadmap, and at the end we will have a live Q&A. The localization industry is notoriously reluctant to change, and the cost of change is very high. So what happened recently to justify such a disruption as a new localization system backed by Unicode may incur? By the way, we want to acknowledge that coming up with a new industry standard, especially for data, is disruptive. But we believe we are in a good position to claim that MessageFormat has a number of shortcomings that accrued over years. MessageFormat shortcomings itself are good reason to eventually work on a successor. But why now? There are two major drivers that motivate us to tackle the challenge now. First one is the web. The web is a powerful ecosystem for software with its own UI, scripting, and styling languages, but there's no localization component. ECMA 402 is a standard which provides internationalization APIs for JavaScript and in result for the web. The largest remaining piece for ECMA 402 is an often requested API to format messages. Web as an ecosystem puts specific constraints on the design of its standards. It's open, accessible to all, insecure by design, asynchronous, thin, modular, readable by hand, and needs to integrate with all other web standards. You have one chance to get it right, and once it's there, we will have to live with it forever. Can we use existing message format? It's a natural candidate for localization standard. It's well-designed standard, it's by Unicode, it's battle-tested in many ecosystems. MessageFormat is the localization solution for ICU, which is the most popular internationalization library. But would it suffice? The answer is, we don't know. At least in its current form, we think not. It depends on how we define the problem scope and whether we can come up with a significant improvement.
9. In the last 10 to 20 years, people have been making attempts to design a localization system, either for the whole web or at least for the small part of the web that they needed a solution for. Some of these designs used message format and some didn't. There are many libraries, but each are slightly different. Most of them are explorations, though, of message format. Google was likely the first to come up with some localization system for some small piece of the web, Chrome extensions. Their solution was independent of message format and was JSON encoded, ID based, with simple placeholders. Facebook faced similar challenges and designed FBT, which also encodes translations in JSON, but with their experience in React, they focused more on integration with a declarative UI like HTML.
Mozilla initially tested message format, but ultimately concluded that it doesn't fit the web, and they need something more powerful to put into Firefox, which is a UI built on HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, just like any other website. The main difference with Fluent is that they follow the idea that web formats are human readable and should be edited by hand and design the system with HTML and JavaScript in mind, with their own format. Fluent took a challenge to address linguistic problems like genders, declensions, brand names, honorifics, and terminology, but also strongly focused on building a localization system that fits HTML user interface translation rather than imperative printf solution. We see the same problems popping up in new contexts. While the web is big enough to justify a localization solution for itself, the cost of developing, implementing, and integrating it is huge. Creating a new system would further fragment the landscape, and we hope we can come up with something useful for the rest of the industry as well. It's actually quite likely that any iteration over message format may benefit from historical lessons and improve the localization in other ecosystems. It would be rather a huge waste of opportunity if we developed something that fits well into the web, but left it misaligned with the needs of the others.
Here, the main inspiration comes from Apple's Siri. See George Roten's talk in this year's conference for more details, which is called Authoring Grammatically Correct Conversational Templates for Siri. With voice assistants, sounding natural becomes a lot more important. Could we use Chrome i18n, FBT, Fluent, or something else? Well, the answer is maybe. Similarly to MessageFormat 1.0, it depends on how we define our goals and whether one of them addresses our needs.
So, MessageFormat Working Group. It's a working group spun out of all the we need a localization system for X, MessageFormat doesn't do Y, and unknowns on what and if there can be a unified solution. A space for stakeholders to work on coming up with shared solution for the next generation localization system to be proposed for JavaScript, devices, and UI supporting Unicode, the web, and beyond. We are lucky to attract many industry experts from many global organizations. Each one adds their unique experience and angle to our exploration, and we would love to see more perspective joining us. There are a number of things we want to deliver back to ECMA 402 and Unicode as an outcome of our work. The main deliverable is a data model, not a syntax. So what is MessageFormat 2.0? It's a code word that we use for what we hope to be an outcome of our work. It may be a slight update of MessageFormat 1.0, or it may be the formalization of one of the newer concepts like FBT or Fluent, but it also may be something yet different that we will have to design ourselves.
At a high level, we want to be able to represent selection more generally than just numbers and gender, allow an extensible way to provide formatting parameters for placeholders, integrate with the localization industry, which means a localization exchange format and round tripping, and be able to plug into higher level operations like natural language generation and other higher level layers. We learned that localization integration is important. A few concrete proposals still need to be resolved into a consensus, but we're collaborating on a subset of major questions that we need to answer in order to establish the boundaries of our work. We've also collected use cases, feature requests. We've decided to go with a data model and not a syntax, and we've proposed 3 different data models that are independently developed. Here are some of the desired features that we have discussed. Features related to basic formatting of a message seem obviously necessary, but among other commonly requested features, which of them belong in MessageFormat versus which of them belong in a tool that integrates with MessageFormat? There are clear differences between current MessageFormat, existing computer-aided translation tools, and natural language generation systems. But where should the boundaries be? Can we define interfaces and conversion tools that can define and manage the boundaries skillfully? We still need to define which pieces of desired functionality belong where. Much of translation work takes place in the world of translation professionals. Coming up with a way to interface between natural language generation and MessageFormat is an open question.
We narrowed down the wide pool of ideas and concerns into 5 major big questions that we need to find our sweet spot on. Each one is a continuum. Some discussions are a result of trade-offs that we have to make. These discussions fall into a few categories of higher level questions. As we continue to make progress, we hope to clarify our stances to these high-level design principles. That will allow us to set clear expectations for future work. Over the next months, we plan to come up with many foundational decisions. Our roadmap is as follows. We first want to gain consensus on the core data model. Then we want to refine data model until the model can do what we need it to do. Then we will design ECMA 402 syntax and implementation for JavaScript. And we will design ICU syntax and implementation for it. With projects so explorative, and with such a breadth of expertise from all around the industry working on a shared model, it is very hard for us to have clear roadmaps. What you see here is more a hand-wave guess on what may happen, and the error bars around each date will narrow over the next months. So here we are. We are a large working group, but the task is monumental. We see it as one-in-a-decade chance to fix the foundation of the industry. We need to make the web localizable, and it'll happen only once. The time to bring your perspective and help us fine-tune the scope is now. The time to help us design the solution is also now. Join us. All of our discussions happen on GitHub issues in our repository. We do have a monthly meeting where we focus on presenting different approaches and planning next steps. But the best way to get involved is to review the open issues and find ones that you want to contribute to. Thank you so much for your attention. And now we'd like to invite you to a live Q&A with our presenters. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.